Stiff Truth. Well,
Hey. You know, well,
Well, let's
look
check
at
it out. Let's
that.
check-
That's a dandy, isn't it?
it is very pretty.
Oh, I appreciate that. The drink doesn't look bad either, but I appreciate those compliments.
This drink is like our wives. They're perfect. They're pretty. They're sweet. They get the job done.
Points for Bob. Points for Bob. This is a good one. Well, I'll tell you what, Bob. Welcome to the Stiff Truth. I am Scott Castelnova, and with me, just a dandy of a man. Of course, you all know him. He's the one. He's the one that everybody wants to be like. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Bob West. Bob, how you doing this beautiful Sunday evening?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I won both my fantasy games. The Cowboys dominated.
Wait, you're calling it already? Both the fantasy games, you're like so far ahead that they're both already called?
100%.
So this is not like the Georgia Senate race or anything like that.
No,
not
this
even
is
close.
not like the 3rd district of Colorado. We're gonna go ahead and call this one now.
Nice.
Let's talk to the stiff truth decision board. Hold on.
Wait.
This is just coming in. Bob has won both fantasy leagues games. This is hot off the press.
Wow.
We can now confirm the decision booth has made its decision. Bob has won both fantasy games.
Well, good for you, Bob. Good for you. Now, I will say this. It looks like I'm going to win one, dramatically lose the other. But you know what? Things need balance in life, Bob, and I'm all about balance. And I'll tell you what, we got a lot of great things to talk about today. A fun show, an enlightening show. But we just trickled in a little bit of the drink.
Did we cold trickle it in?
Yes, cold trickle. We're gonna daze of thunder this motherfucker. Let's talk about this cocktail we're having today, because you know what? It's a pretty bastard, isn't it? Isn't it? So what do we got here today, Bob? Because it looks like a red nightmare to some people, maybe, or a red dream. I don't know, but what do we got here, Bob?
This drink is a Red Devil, and it is as pretty as Dak Prescott's QBR was today.
Oh my God. Would you get off his junk for a hot minute? Jesus Christ. How about them boys? Well, no, this is a pretty drink, and I'll tell you that right now. Guys, this is a tasty one. Say what you will, Bob. And you know how much of a fan I am of drinks that use orange juice as one of the mixers. And this is right up there again. And I can't decide, is it the alcohol I really like and that I'm addicted to, Bob? Or is it the orange juice that I really just like the taste of? Why do I keep it? Why am I so attracted to these kind of cocktails? I ask you that. Kind of a rhetorical question, but I'm just going to ask you that question.
People have been drinking for thousands of years.
That's true.
And at this point, we are benefiting. We're standing on the shoulders of giants and being able to make these fantastic orange and sometimes pineapple based drinks that are stiff and delicious and colorful and everything that you would want to drop panties.
Oh, wow. So
this is dropping panty approved, Stiff Truth approved.
You know, Bob, what you just did there is a pretty bold statement, but I'm going to agree with you. This is in the category of a panty dropper right here, because guys, and I know, again, people are screaming so fanatically right now and so passionately at their phone, their laptop, their car stereo. They're like, what's in the fucking drink, guys? I'll tell you, it's a half ounce of all these glorious things. You've got vodka. Stay with me, Bob, because I'm going off memory here. We got vodka, slow gin, Southern Comfort, banana, banana liqueur, and triple sec. Yep. Then a dash, and this is totally up to you guys. This is like round robin. You choose it, like whatever you want. Either a dash of sweetened lime juice. I did like blub, 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 blub. I went like that, blub, 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 blub. Or you could do a dash of grenadine. Then you fill that bitch up the rest of the way with orange juice. So basically you want to pull this, put this in a tall glass, a highball glass or pint glass if you want to, fill it up with ice, and then shake that bitch like whom, Bob? Like whom?
Like Michael J. Fox.
Absolutely. Give that one a nasty little kind of depressing shake, and then you are ready to go. And you get this glorious, I'll say, kind of like it almost looks like a strawberry limeade kind of color.
Yeah, it's like almost. I know it looks orange on the camera here, but it's really more of a like a pink, like a really light red or a pink, kind of like a watermelon color look. Now we used sweet and lime juice. Just knowing the bar as we do, if you use grenadine, it will give it a more deep red look if that's what you're going for. So maybe the more red version of the Red Devil is using the grenadine or what have you. But it's the flavor is not gonna change because there's not enough in it to really make a different taste wise. Because let's be honest, sweet and lime juice and grenadine, when you mix it all up, you're just adding a bunch of sugar. But there's a little color change.
You know, and I think this could be the difference maker here. And I thought about it too. I was like, because we always make a couple of cocktails. I'm like, should I put grenadine in one? And I was like, no. I honestly don't really like grenadine in drinks. If it's a small amount, like the Marilyn Monroe's, it's okay, right? But
almost half ounce.
Almost every, and this one just said a splash, so I probably could have done it, but I was like, I'm more of a fan of the tart kind of sweet and lime juice flavor versus the grenadine, which is honestly just sickening sweet syrupy, right? So I'm like, I don't know, but I feel like I need to maybe revisit this one, circle back, so to speak, just to see what the alternative is, because I have an issue with this, Bob. I'm a stickler for the rules, anal, some people would say, for the rules, and you're like, yeah, that's true. But it boggles my mind when they have an official drink of the bartender book and there's yes, and there's a you call it option, like, hey, you can make this drink, and then, hey man, if you're feeling saucy, throw this in. If you're feeling kind of shitty, throw this in. You do you, but why give me the option? So I feel like when they put this drink together and they approved it by the bartender black book, like hierarchy, which I'm sure is a very vigorous process, right, in my imagination. But I'm sure they were like, you know what, this drink is equally badass with grenadine or sweet and lime juice. Let's make it an option for people. So I think I need to revisit. What about you though? Are you is it worth revisiting this one? I think it's good enough.
I think after the show we'll circle back and do a grenadine version and just compare notes.
We both had circle back now, within the first 10 minutes of the show. That's
that's because we live in a corporate world and we're in our 40s.
This is true.
We're inundated with corporate jargon. And so, I mean, you'll only understand if you have enough bandwidth.
Well, we're always looking to create some more synergy too, and that's always a good thing, right?
Only if there's enough stakeholders involved to merit the constitution of the idea.
Boy, that
I'm fucking retarded, dude. I swear to God, I'm retarded.
Oh, that's two already in the show. We like that. So we've got a couple of circle backs, a couple retardeds. Up, that's 3 retardeds, 4 retardeds. Oh shit!
Oh, there you go. It's indefinite. It's a loop back. It's a loop feedback. The more you mention it, the more it happens, and that's okay. But we do really have a lot of stuff to get to today.
Oh, so we should we quit fucking around then and just get to it? Is that what you're saying? Is that your way of making a smooth transition?
I mean, I got a paper to write.
Oh, so very good.
In true Bob fashion, I'm in the middle of paper writing, and because it's Sunday and it's due tonight, because that's how people with ADHD respond, and undiagnosed, by the way. And I haven't gotten into this yet, Scott. But I am looking into my mental health. I've been on a wellness thing, as you know, for the last several months. You've probably noticed I'm working out more. I'm eating better. I'm seeing my doctor. I'm doing the testosterone replacement therapy. I'm looking out for me. I'm circling back to dad's health after years and years of just like kids and wife and house and family and all that. So and doing all of that, I've seen some TikToks, because that's like, TikToks aren't the end all be all, and they're not where you should get your facts. But man, they do spark the interest, right? And make you, at least me, they make me start looking at topics that I might not have otherwise been looking at.
That
And
makes
one of
sense.
them has been ADHD. I follow a couple people with ADHD. I also follow people with Tourette's, but that's just funny. But I follow a couple of people with ADHD, and they're like, "Oh yeah, have you ever finished people's sentences?" Well, yeah, we all do that, right? No, no, we don't all do that. At least not out loud, Dick. No, no,
It's
not
true.
all people do that. Do you ever feel like you can't get anything done until like it's crunch time and you're at risk of failure of the deadline? Yeah, yeah, everyone does that. No, no, they don't. Most people don't do that. Most people do it, a few days before the deadline as to not be an asshole. And so I started like finding all these things. It's like, I think I may have ADHD.
Yeah. That makes
so so
that
I
makes
hit up my
sense.
doctor, and
Oh,
I do have an appointment scheduled. It's
oh,
really far out. It's like August the next year because
oh!
they're pretty booked, but
I thought you were gonna meant like trippy and that kind of far
they're
out. You
not
know what I mean?
far
Like,
out, man. But like, it's really far out calendar year wise. It's
you
they,
know,
they called me and they're like August, and I'm like, well, you're gonna have to fucking call me and remind me because the
I've got
ADHD potentially, allegedly.
Well, I will say this. I think this is something probably you and I have in common. I'm thinking just recently too. I had a very big project I needed to work on for my profession. And I blew it off the entire weekend that I had time to do it. I even blew it off when my boss called me and say, hey, on my day off, he's like, "Hey, you want me to help you out with that?" I was like, "Nah, I got that. Don't even worry about it." And I continued to blow it off. And then like the morning of that I had the meeting where this was going to be presented, I decided to go ahead and work on it like a hour before it. And I was freaking the fuck out. But I had zero motivation to do it. And the more that I think about it, I've done that with every time sensitive project I've ever had. And when I haven't done that, it's because somebody else like made me pretty much do it beforehand, or at least just like gave me like no excuses that I couldn't. But left to my own devices, I'm just gonna be like, well, that's not due till then. Why would I stress it about that now? My mind is too busy doing other things right now. I don't want to focus on tomorrow. That's tomorrow Scott's problem. Tomorrow Scott. What a dick. You
Yeah,
know what I
today
mean?
Scott doesn't have to deal with that.
Exactly. Well, that's good, man. I mean, kind of a bummer that you have to wait so long, but that's the world of American healthcare in the sense like, do you remember when I scheduled an appointment for myself to get a new doctor? I think it took me like 3 or 4 months to like see a new doctor.
Mhm.
God forbid. And here's the catch 22 that if I called them up and said, "Hey, I have chest pains," I probably would have seen the doctor like months in advance, but just because like nothing was really wrong with me, I'm like, yeah, just want to see a doctor, check everything out, get a new family doctor. They're like, yeah, we can do that almost next year. You're like, really? Like, so when there's probably gonna be a problem, you're gonna check me out, like, or you're just gonna wait for life to take hold because we're waiting so long. Good for you. Good for you.
So I found a new bougie doctor. So
Oh,
here's the thing. I got dropped from my doctor and I know none of this topic that we're talking about right now is planned. But anyway, we're gonna
yeah.
get back
Talk
to
talk about somebody that needs to get out of here and write a paper, and we're already like
it.
fucking going off on a tangent.
but I found this new bougie doctor, right? And they're in Rio Rancho, they're local, that's pretty cool. But like they do kind of more holistic approach, I guess. I don't know. They do like strange things. Like you can go get your like fat freeze therapy. You can go get Botox here. You can go get like facials and massage. It's a very bougie place. But the doctor that I saw, um, he was all about it. I was like, Doc, I don't know. I'm having trouble losing weight, and I like exercise a lot, and I'm eating pretty good. And I was like, I think I'm worried about my like thyroid or testosterone. And he's just like, I am too. Now that you tell me that, he's like, I'm gonna put a blood test in and we're gonna check fucking everything for you. Right. And I've never had a doctor be so proactive like that. It's always been like me pushing the doctor to do stuff that I want. And
Mhm.
this doctor was more than willing to just like whatever I want. And it was so refreshing. And maybe you need a boutique doctor.
Well, you know, a couple of different things I want to say to that. You're absolutely right. It is refreshing when somebody echoes your urgency for something because I think that's what's missing sometimes, right? Is you go in there like because here's what I usually get from doctors, and I won't say all doctors, but most of the time I go in there and I'm slightly a hypochondriac. I will admit that especially as I get older, because again, especially with new things, I'm like, I never felt this before. Probably something bad. I don't think those are new sensations that just pop up later in life. So, but I usually get the like, yeah, like don't even worry about that. We won't even check that out. Like you're not at the age for this. But you kind of get these like almost deflection type responses.
You
from a
get
lot
blown
of
off.
Yes, absolutely. But
Even though you're paying for it.
yeah, right. But it would be nice sometimes to have somebody like at least lean into the investigation a little bit. Like, hey, you know what? That probably is off-putting, dude. Sorry you're dealing with that. Here's what we can do to like process of eliminate all your worries or figure out what's going on and just dial into like doing something about it. So that's very refreshing. But the other thing that you said that like, and I don't know if you saw a smile creep across my face when you said it. It's like, yeah, it's like hey, like they do out of the box kind of weird things. Like, hey, so I am a little bit worried about my thyroid. They're like, oh yeah, of course. Well, hey, just bend over a little bit and let me tickle your prostate. Trust me, I know it's unorthodox, but this is how we figure out.
I need 3 fingers, Doc. It's been a rough month.
He's like, hold on, wait. I know this is unorthodox. I'm going to stick my fingers up your ass, and then I'm going to put them in your mouth. And if your eyes cross, something is wrong. If they don't cross, you're fine.
I will say this: thyroid 100% perfect. It's fine. It definitely. I don't have any thyroid issues, which is actually a blessing because that really sucks if you do. Right? It's hard to manage, especially if you're already like dealing with, being an ex-stoner and overeating, an ex-athlete, still overeating. There's a bunch of factors as to why I deal with some of the things that I do. But either way, I just kind of wanted to bring that up and let you and the Stiffies know just about like kind of my personal journey to health. It's going to keep moving forward, and I'm really motivated for it. And we're going to keep busting forward and staying consistent. And I owe you, Scott. I owe you results.
Me? Oh, I'm like this. Me? It's like, yes, you. Well, and I appreciate that, Bob, because again, I can do the show by myself, but I don't think it's going to be that good. In the sense, I think we do a better show together. I think that's how things work with a this kind of show. Or if not, it's just me monologuing about weird shit. And I don't know how far the show goes if I'm just talking about the history of gay porn. You know what I mean? I mean, some people would tune in. You would.
Pretty far. You just got to find your audience, Scott.
Well, I'll tell you what, thinking, and something we haven't done in a little while, and I know some of our dearest and nearest Stiffies appreciate, is there's some kind of wacky stories out in the world that we want to talk about. But before we get into that, Bob, I just want to point out something. I'm not sure that we pointed out before, but isn't it interesting that this last week, your son, and we'll just call him our 5-star Stiffy, I think they have the same birthday.
I noticed that too.
Isn't that fun?
I think I noticed that before, but it really sank home this time.
Yeah.
I did notice that. So happy birthday, Mike.
Yes, happy birthday, Mr. Mike Lenz. Happy birthday, Daring. But yes, that's pretty cool. I was like, oh, isn't that neat? So and correct me if I'm wrong here. Is their birthday, and you know this better than me, I can't remember. Is it the 15th?
It's the 15th.
Yeah, 15th. So November 15th. So and of course, Mike is an old piece of shit now, which is great. It's fun, to be an old
as
piece
we
of
all
shit.
are.
and Daring is a smacked ass. So, you put those two things together, you've got a smacked piece of shit. And that's fun, guys. So, and I think that really works together. So I just thought that was great. I thought when I did actually click, which is weird. We should have known that, like you said, we should have known that like 2 years ago.
We did. I mean, we have Facebook.
Yeah. But I didn't click to mention anything about it until this week, and it's like, I never knew that, or I did, but my drunk ass forgot it. Anyways, I digress. Speaking of some interesting fun stuff, though, Bobby, I know that you had a chance to just give these a once over, but yes, we're getting back into some fun little stories here. And I'll tell you one I think was just odd, but I think would be really fun to see. There was a woman in Massachusetts
Springfield at that, like the Simpsons.
Which is fun. Woman in Massachusetts, she was going to get evicted. Now, honestly, everybody does not like this. How the cops are involved in this already pretty much means that she's pretty hardcore and stubborn about not not giving up her post, right? Like she's squatting. Like when the cops get involved when you get evicted, that means like you're pretty defiant, right? But long short here, the cops are showing up to evict this lady to physically remove her from her home. And she shows up. And, I think there's something missing to the story because when they said they showed up, there's protesters out there. So apparently other people weren't very happy about her getting evicted, or maybe there's protesters for another reason. I'm not sure, Bob, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, the cops are at her house, ready to take her out. She strolls up in an SUV, carrying, like hitched to the back of her SUV is multiple cages of live beehives, right? So she gets out, pulls up to the cops, starts smacking the shit out of the cages to get the bees all fucking riled up and pissed off, and then proceeds to open one of the cages to release the hounds, so to speak, on the cops. And sure enough, some of the cops get stung, and apparently there's a couple of these guys or girls, we never know, that are allergic to bees. She gets in a shitload of trouble. I mean, she's facing like some severe like battery and assault charges here. But Bob, I'll tell you what. Now, one, fly in the wall, no pun intended, but it would be kind of fun to see how this played out. I'm also very interested on why people were protesting, but what do you think about this one?
It reminds me of the scene from Tommy Boy
Yeah,
when they've been
yeah,
drinking and they're
yeah.
driving and they get pulled over and he's like, hey, just go with me on this, okay? And they get out like, oh my God, the bees are swarming. They're ripping my flesh. And the dude's like, allergic to bees. You?
Yeah.
You guys roll around on the ground.
We're gonna kick rocks. We're out of here. Yeah, you guys take care.
Yeah,
Be safe
that's
out
that's
there.
the same thing, except for these cops weren't that way. They called their friends and they tackled the chick in her bee suit and arrested her. But what an interesting thing. And in what deranged mind does that like plan work out? Like we all hatch plans, right? We all like think about maybe investment opportunities, home remodeling projects, budget things up that are coming. We all have these like long-term plans and how they're going to work out and how it all falls in and how we can accomplish our goals. And what plan was it where I'm going to stop paying rent, and when the cops come to throw me out, I'm just going to sick my bees on them, and it's all going to be okay.
Okay. Can I tell you what kind of plan this is? This is a plan that seems like it's oozing methamphetamines. Am I right? Am I right here?
Or maybe crack. I mean,
Maybe. Hey, you know what? Maybe both. Maybe it's a nice little combo platter here. You know what I'm saying? Yes, absolutely. And it's something you had just barely trickled in there that I want to emphasize is she had a beekeeper suit. That's the other thing. Like, talk about premeditation, right? Can you think of her lawyer? She's like, hey, she didn't really mean to do this. She's just a little bit bad. She's like, dude, she bought a beekeeper suit. She bought multiple hives of bees and then bought a hitch to her SUV to carry them to the sea.
That sounds expensive. You should have just paid your rent.
Like, hey, imagine if your motivation was wholesome. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the amount of vindication here is mind-boggling versus what she could have just done to like pay her goddamn rent. But yeah, again, pretty fucking funny. Now, thankfully so. And I know, Bob, you and all the Stibbies were very worried. Everybody's okay. The cops are okay. One guy did have to go to the hospital because bee stings, if you're allergic, pretty fucking serious. You could die. I mean, that goes along with any kind of allergic reaction. But he's okay. So everybody's unscathed, and they did say that she could have faced way worse charges if like
attempted manslaughter or some shit like that, attempted murder, like who knows.
I would say attempted manslaughter would probably be the right, and I'm no lawyer or anything, but I don't know if murder really goes there. But hey, what do you expect when you sick the bees on somebody? And remember what she said too when they were like, hey, some of these guys are allergic to bees. She's like, oh, allergic, good. It's all like creepy.
Right. No shit.
Like her head starts spinning. You're like, oh Jesus, what's going on here? So interesting stuff. But something else I thought that was pretty interesting that happened here, and this is kind of sad. We just talked about this before we started the show here. Another woman, not related at all, in a small town in Arizona, was arrested for feeding the homeless in a public park. Now, initially when I got this one, Bob, and I started reading it, I sent it to you because I was like, this one's probably funny. And then I read the article and I was like, this is not very funny at all. This is pretty sad in the sense like Okay, I get it. And we laughed about it a little bit, meaning I laughed about it a little bit when we were talking about it. I don't think you laughed at all, but I was like, okay, so are we treating this like don't feed the bears, don't feed the deer? Like literally, if you feed the homeless people, they'll come back to the park. And unfortunately, Bob, I think that's right on the money on why they created this law.
I can
Which is
almost like guarantee that's the
which is really
philosophy.
strange. Can you believe that though? We're literally we're treating like poor, pathetic human life. Which again, if you're homeless, I'm sorry to say you're poor and pathetic, right? And that's not like a diss. That's just what
No,
your life has
it's like
become.
the literal definition of those words.
Yes, exactly. And I know everybody would want to get in their safe space on that one. Be like, he said they're poor and pathetic, because they are. But to treat human life like a rabbit or just a wild animal, that Yogi Bear type animal that's stumbles into your campground or your park, you're like, hey, don't even look at them, don't pet them, don't feed them, because they'll just fucking come back. And we don't want that. Why? Because they're subhuman. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
whoa, dude. So I kind of kept this one in there because I was like, hey, it's worth talking about here, but it's not very funny, but interesting that it is actually a law. And something I like that you pointed out, Bob, which was a great point. It's like, I don't think this is like a law of a federal law of the United States. It's a weird little backwards hillbilly law in a small town in Arizona. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but I actually do want to hope to be optimistic that that's the case, because it seems like this was put into law by some uppity, um, high class douchebags that want to do that not my backyard kind of shit with other human beings. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, and we've actually talked about that exact ideology, right?
Mhm.
The not in my backyard thing. And you know, the disregard for people in our country in different situations is astounding. The level of entitlement that some people have in our country, and disconnect
Mhm.
to the other, even far be it, fringes of society, is unbelievable. Like, we're all different, right? I've lived both sides of the spectrum, as have you.
Yeah.
We both have had fucking nothing, less than nothing,
Yeah.
net worth of negative, right? And now we're on the other side where we're fairly well to do, upper middle class kind of folks, and I've seen all kinds of people in my life. I've been in all kinds of situations, and I have a greater appreciation for the human experience, for the journey, for the path that some people may be on. And in my journey, I've seen people that are not just disparaged, but that are actually pathetic.
Yeah.
They maybe they did drugs for too long, and they
Sure.
don't connect anymore mentally, and they just they're now like resolute to just take the scraps of whatever they can get to survive. And people don't understand that maybe you grew up well to do and you went to college and your biggest problem is your student loans, right? Or if you're gonna fucking make it to church and brunch, right? But there's people out there that may have been you, but then lost everything, right? And I think that people's disconnect in this country is, it's insane to not know that some people have a different set of cards that were played. Some people lost the ability to come back. Like you and I were both in a difficult spot in our younger 20s, and we both came back, right? We still had our mental capacity. We gained, we focused in, we had that opportunity. We took it, we seized it, we were motivated, we did it. Some people lose that opportunity, or they get burnt,
Yeah.
right? Or they can't like connect the dots anymore.
Well, and I'll even say this, even with ourselves, and luckily it didn't happen, but some people, just like what we went through, had the potential to turn it around and just continued to be dealt a shittier hand, or luck just ran out for them. You know what I mean? There is some people out there that unfortunately, it's the whole reason why people actually give homeless people money in the first place, because when somebody's hard up and they really like they don't have a place like and so I'm a bit jaded about this, you know what I mean? Because a lot of the times there's just people like just out there looking for handouts, which is unfortunate because there are the ones that really just like they've tried, they really have tried, they've got the chops, but they just got a curveball, they got a zig when they shoot a zag kind of situation. And it is tough though, dude, because I don't know, it just seems to me like, and I won't spend a lot more time on this, there seems like there's so much more important things you can legislate besides giving people food that are fucking hungry. You know what I mean?
100%.
like come on, dude. Like, hey, what's the problem here? This guy doesn't smell. No, it's outside too, right? It's in a public park. This guy's unsightly. He doesn't look good in my view right now. I'm looking at my scene and I'm slightly uncomfortable by the guy that's wearing raggedy clothes that looks dirty and makes me feel a little uncomfortable. So I'm going to make sure there's laws in this town to say, hey, let's make sure that this guy is not in my sight line anymore. And at least in my public place when I'm out here with my fucking little bougie $3,000 dog I paid for. You know what I mean? And again,
and I get it. And it's easy to say, well, we got to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. Unless you've been in a place where there were no bootstraps. If you've been in a place that was so fucked up that you can actually see the people on both sides of the scale either way. And I personally, I've been there.
Yeah,
I've been there. I've been poor enough and I've been down and out enough in my life that I could see like, wow, I'm probably a few steps away from like not coming back. You know what I mean? And I've been there and I've seen people there. So I'm not like that. I'm the first to like, help out. In fact, there's an embarrassing story. I was at the Dollar Tree one day and there's like this dude who had a couple of backpacks. He looked fucking homeless. So I went home and I got a bunch of like a care package, probably like a week's worth of food, maybe 3 or 4 days. And just Gatorades, waters, canned foods, ramen, all this other shit, and I took it to him and I had it in the car and I walked up to the guy and I went all the way back out to where this dude was here in Rio Rancho. And I was just like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need help? Are you hungry? Like, are you good? And then he was just like, oh, yeah, I'm good. I'm just waiting for my friend to come pick me up from Santa Fe. And like he was kind of moving along or whatever. So I'm like I overachieved, with the dude that I presumed was home. And honestly, he probably was, but not to the point of where he like needed food.
I'm like, Bob, he just had dreadlocks. I mean, that's, like, well, I don't know why you made all these wild assumptions.
Well, he was unbathed in dirty clothes, sitting with a couple of bags, like on the grass.
You're like, well, hey, PSA, bud, take a fucking bath because you look like, or get a sign. You just hold up a cardboard sign because maybe you could make a little money while you're waiting for your own boy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, be careful, man. In Rio Rancho, they'll like take you to Albuquerque, drop you off.
Nobody wants that.
You don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. Well, speaking of places you don't want to go.
Go ahead.
What's going on with Texas Pete?
I'll tell you this. Here, I got a couple things to say about this. Texas Pete's. Maybe I didn't put an S on there.
We know Texas Pete. Isn't that the guy with like the big hat and on the hot sauce bottle with the boots?
Oh, dude, big white star, just rocking and rolling, right? Here's the thing. Have you had this hot sauce? Because I tried it recently. It's fucking garbage. I'm just gonna say
I haven't had the hot sauce.
Yeah, right out of the gate, I don't like it. I think it's for Louisiana styled hot. And that adds another element to this. It's Louisiana styled hot sauce that claims to be from Texas. That's actually made in, wait for it, North Carolina.
Get a rope.
Yeah, right. So, but what's funny about this, guys, is apparently, I believe it's a Texas man, or I don't even know if it's a Texas man, but somebody bought Texas Pete's under false pretense, right? He was like, oh, you know what? I really like Texas. I'm all about, everything's bigger in Texas. I'm going to get Texas Pete's hot sauce and I'm going to have a great time. He's eating Texas Pete's. He's loving it. He's licking his fucking fingers. He's having a good time. He reads the bottle. He's like, wait a minute. This shit's made in New York City. I'm just kidding. You remember that from Peace Picante?
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Get a rope.
Yeah, right. But yeah, apparently he got super mad and he's fucking suing Texas Pete's over false advertising, Bob, which is one of the worst things to do if you are advertising something, is to falsely assume something or portray something that you know people are going to just want to buy the shit out of, like hot sauce from Texas that's Louisiana style. I mean, the ridiculousness drips all over the place more than this hot sauce. Do you know what I'm saying, Bob?
No, I do. I was actually like looking to pull up a picture here. I found one. I'm gonna pull it up just so that everyone can know, because I wanted to know. There it is.
There he is, Texas Pete's. Look at that thing. Yeah, there it is. Now, if that doesn't scream Southwest, you know what I mean? Look at him go. But this is pretty.
I haven't had the hot sauce. Honestly, it wouldn't entice me because I like to like not be able to breathe when I have hot sauce and peppers and shit. So regular hot sauce is ketchup to me. I need some fucking serious like sweating fucking heart attack style heat.
But, so you like your hot sauce like you like your gay men?
I do.
Okay,
I mean,
there we go.
I can't find any black hot sauce yet, but I'll find it.
What the fuck? Well, hey, you've always been a very open man, but yeah, I know you like them sweaty and strong and spicy. You know what I'm saying?
And dark. So
okay,
I know I'm an idiot, but it's so funny that like all you have to do is turn the bottle around and fucking read it. You know what I mean? It says where it's bottled.
Well, here's the other thing I thought was interesting to me. I was like, I get why he sued him because it seems legit, right? But at the same time, I thought to myself from a branding and marketing perspective, like, well, dude, can't I just say that let's just go crazy here. Can't I just say I'm Indiana Jones hot sauce, right? And are people going to freak the fuck out if Indiana Jones hot sauce is made in Illinois? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, the state could just be part of the brand, not representative of the brand itself, meaning it needs to be from that state. Are you following me? Like, I think Texas Pete's has this one in a landslide victory, not only because I'm sure they have higher priced lawyers versus this guy that's partially retarded, but more so that, come on, dude. Like you could say anything like Carolina Reaper. You're like, oh God, well, the Carolina Reaper, this and that sauce or whatever is made in fucking like, you know, again, Florida or some shit like that. You're like, oh, well, this false advertising. You're like, well, I never said that it was made there. I just said that that's like the guy I'm representing. It seems very weak. It seems like a weak case, Bob. And maybe I'm looking into this too far, but when you have a brand and you just have a state name as part of the brand, I don't think you're necessarily saying, hey man, I'm guaranteeing that it's from the state that is mentioned in the brand. I think that's a pretty weak claim. You know what I mean?
It needs to get thrown out as frivolous. I mean, and I'm sure it will.
Yeah, this is probably going to be like, you know, in The Simpsons where Homer has that white glove and he smacks people in the face and challenges them to a duel or whatever. I think that's what the judge needs to do this guy. Just be like, hey, come here. Pop, 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 pop. Get out of here.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a specific law about fucking frivolous lawsuits, and I'm sure once this actually gets its day in court, it's going to get dismissed because if you can't turn the bottle around and read it, fuck you. I mean, it's not like they said it was made in Texas and it was like bottled and manufactured in San Antonio or some shit. And then they found out otherwise with investigative fucking research and shit. No. No, this guy just said, well, your name is Texas Pete. That's cool. So if I'm like fucking Jewish oranges, you're going to sue me because my fucking oranges didn't come from Israel?
Oh, like, Jesus Christ.
It's fucking retarded, dude.
Or at least from New York City or somewhere.
By the way,
Jews.
That's the 7th, now 8th retard.
That's a lot of retards. I think we're at 10 now almost. And I read that article in the sense that what happened is in North Carolina, like a local restaurant started this in 1929. It's Winston-Salem like barbecue restaurant. So a pretty big name. Hence why I think they've got better lawyers than I even previously stated. It's a cigarette fucking company that's dealt with a lot of litigation before. So yeah. And they just wanted to have something on brand. Like, hey man, we have a barbecue restaurant. We're going to go with fucking Texas barbecue, not North Carolina barbecue. Cause that's lame. And I get that. You know what I mean? So they had Texas Pete's, a little lasso, fucking big white star. Boom. Eat your shit. Move on.
Did you see in the sign from last week's game when it was the Chiefs and the Titans?
Mm-hmm.
And the dude from Tennessee made the trip to Kansas City, and he held up a sign that said Memphis barbecue is better. Anyway, that's just kind of stuck my core. Thought I'd bring that up.
Watch the notes. Ready? You watch this. Watch.
Already saw
you
it.
Watch it.
It's
Watch
up.
this.
I'm watching
Watch
it.
this. Boom.
Oh wow.
I didn't even think it was worth it considering the time. I was like, I don't even think that's worth it. Dude.
It's all because I started talking about doctors and shit. I pulled this away earlier. We're not going to have enough time for our topics. But
Bob, can I tell you something? You are always fucking everything up. I hope your mental health. I hope your mental health as well.
I hope your mental health is fucked because you keep fucking our show timeline.
No. I was just saying. I thought maybe it was more important to move on to something else. But Bob, we looked at this though too, in the sense that, and I brought this up, as I tend to bring up some random shit or what have you, but I had saw some things about world population recently, and it was alarming to me because I was like, "Ooh, Jesus Christ!" Because I'll tell you this: when I was in high school, a friend of mine, we'll call him JH, you might know him. He had a poster on his door that said 6 billion people, right? And this is like mid to late 90s, 6 billion people. And I was like, wow, it's a lot of fucking people, man. Now that was in like 1998, 1999, call it something like that, right? And here we are now. We are surpassed 8 billion people. An extra 2 billion people are roaming around the earth. And I know we have a difference of what we've heard. I definitely don't know their facts. I think they're projections by one group, but I've heard that within the next 15 years, there's a potential for us to be at 9 billion. Which
do you know what our max capacity is?
I don't.
It's 11 billion, 11 or 13, one of those. That's like to where we're no longer sustainable with maxing out our opportunity to use our land resources for growing and all this shit. From what I heard, it was like 11 to 13, right in that range, to where we can't sustain any population above that. And now, to be fair, that's probably made with current technology, right? And how we could grow our crops or grow them, hydroponically or whatever. And I'm sure that in like 100 years, we'd have better technology to where maybe we could sustain it. But I would guess that that's probably about right. We have to have a cap, right?
Yeah. Well, and with the current trajectory and what I just kind of outlined with that loose timeline, that kind of puts us at, depending if it's 11 or 13, like maybe our children's lifetime where they're at max. You know what I mean? Like another 60 to 90 years, and that's about it for us. In the sense of like we're officially overpopulated and we have too many human resources versus actual natural resources. And I mean natural resources, not just like oil, but just resources in general, like food and everything. That's pretty alarming. But the reason why I brought this up initially is because I looked at a recent article that had mentioned like there's such a need now to talk about things on an even more macro and micro level now that we're getting more advanced into like quantum physics and things like that, that they literally now, and you like, where is it? I'm going to go to it right now because I want to make sure I get this right. But apparently I didn't even know this was a thing, Bob. I didn't even know this was a thing, but apparently a group of scientists meet every few years in Paris that talk about world measurement unit systems. And this is the first time now since the 90s, the early 90s at that they decided to add more classifications to macro and micro measurements of units. Did you get a chance to read this one?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you right now that they've added basically 2 groupings on each size, which is pretty interesting. You've got, let me just see here what we got again. We've got, let me just close that. Okay, so there's the gargantuan, and I don't know how they're saying this. It could be Rona, which I think is really interesting with coronavirus, or it could be Rana, but it's RONNA, which means 27 zeros after the 1 for large. 27s. So if you're saying there's a Rana or Rona million, like 2 Ronas or whatever.
That's a lot of something.
That's a lot. That's almost your library of gay porn. You know what I mean? To put that in perspective.
Almost. That's almost the amount of like money shots that I've seen.
Now, and its bigger brother, Quetta or Quetta, Quetta. How would you pronounce that? Now, if it's Spanish, Quetta, right? But it could be
It's
Quetta.
like Quetta, probably.
Yeah, Quetta, meaning 30 zeros after the one. Now, on
So 1,000 Ronas.
Yes. So, and then on the ant-sized counterparts, you got Ronto, Ronto, 27 zeros after the decimal point, or Quato, Quato, which is 30 zeros after the
Isn't
decimal
that the
point.
dude from Total Recall?
Quato is, Quato, yeah. He's like, Quaid, shut down the reactors.
Yes.
That's this guy. And like representing the smaller numbers needed for quantum science and particle physics. So I thought that was interesting that they literally said, hey, we need to make this shit official, not just because the world is 8 billion. Obviously, I don't think that's the straw that broke the camel's back at the end of the day, but it is pretty interesting, Bob. And the reason why I wanted to chat about it here too is, and we talked about this briefly, is our good buddy, friend of the show, AOC, and Chuck Schumer have both been recently quoting that we need to be procreating more in this country for the health of the economy. I'm going to leave it as easy as that because the nuance of their comments could be interpreted other ways. But I think that's the gist. We are not having enough babies in this country, which is hindering our economic growth. Now, Bob, before I let you talk about this, I want to give you one point of feedback from myself, just like I think we've talked about numerous times. I don't know of a lack of population is our problem. I'm just going to leave it at that, but get your thoughts after that.
So I'm going to counterpoint that a little bit, not 100%, because I do agree with you to some extent. But I do say that we do have to keep up with our population, with our aging population. Because if you're 80, including our current president, you're pretty worthless to society, right? So I'm just gonna say, dude, you're no longer productive. At most, you can still be mentally capable to help contribute academically or mentally to a fucking conversation or whatever. But functionally, most 80-plus-year-old people aren't contributing to our society in a productive way, right? Not in a tangibly productive way. Most. Someone like maybe Fauci, who's like a fucking mind, right, can contribute intellectually, and that's fine. No one's accusing Biden or Trump of contributing intellectually, but all I'm saying is that we have an aging population that is moving forward, right? Well, I guess on the camera it's moving forward. But what we have is all the like under 30 people right now, they're not having children. They're just not. Right. So a lot of people I know are having no children or maybe one children. Right.
We'd call that a child.
Right. Oh, yes, one child. So the problem with that is obviously do the math. If two people have one child, they've cut the population in half. If everyone only got together with a couple and had one child, then now we have 150 million people in America within one generation. And I think maybe that's something of what's being touched on here. While we have the extenuating like old population that isn't contributing, but they're fucking draining on our resources. And they're not contributing to society in any tangible way. Again, and I hate to say it like that because I care about our old people, but we have to provide for them, not count on them to produce. Right. Bob. So I think that's why it's imperative that we have not only 2, but like 3 children when people couple together to try to increase a little bit. Because if you look at the population between now and what do we have, 330 million and 1995, where like 280 million or whatever it was, like we haven't increased enough to keep up with the percentage of population that is being a burden on us. That's my thoughts on it.
I know I appreciate your thoughts here. I got a couple of counterpoints to that. One, and most notably here, I do have to take somewhat issue with you mentioning Fauci as a mind. I think at 80 years old, 80 plus years old, I think Fauci could have stepped out of the limelight 20 years ago and probably done himself better and everybody else, in the sense that, do you really think that he's like more mentally capable just because he was the front man for the pandemic? Or is it, I don't know. I don't think he was that noteworthy in my mind. Dude, they could have had any other doctor up there, any other infectious disease doctor up there. I think he gets too much credit. I almost think he was somewhat of a celebrity for the left.
Scott, take COVID out of it. Look at Fauci's resume. Pre-COVID, Fauci's been a huge impact on America.
And put COVID back in it, in the sense that maybe without Fauci's like funding and like other things, like maybe there is no COVID problem. So I'm just saying, like, I definitely wouldn't put him in, like, I wouldn't use him as my example of somebody past 80 years old that's like an intellectual, when there's somebody like Mel Brooks at the age of 96 who's a comedy legend that's still alive, that's probably contributed more to America.
Wait. He just contributed to a movie in the last year or so.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
Oh, I forget what movie it was, but he just got writing credits on a recent movie, and I was really impressed.
Oh, he got voice actor credits on a recent thing I saw too. And the reason why I mentioned Mel Brooks, so everybody does know, is I watched Dracula Dead and Loving It last night with Leslie Nielsen. R.I.P. homie, love that guy. And then Mel Brooks directing that, and I think that was his last big directorial, movie from 1995. What a classic!
Scott,
what a classic!
Look at me. I'll bring up Fauci because I know he was like 50 years of brainiac.
Yeah.
And your brain can still function, right? And he is the first person that kind of popped to mind, probably out of relevancy over the last couple of years, that's over 80, that's like doing something productive, when most people like fucking Trump or Biden aren't.
Okay, no, that's fair. But here, I'll counter this again and say, I would have even said, give it to Bernie Sanders.
That's true. That dude's like, what, 84?
Yeah, absolutely. He's right in there. But the other thing that you mentioned, which is very, very, and I didn't think about what you had said too, it's very, very true, in the sense that we do need to have more of a growing, productive population. That's something I didn't think about, in the sense when I thought about it in my very broad strokes. I'm like, we don't need more fucking people. We need less fucking people. So there's two solutions I see here.
But is that less Gen Zers or?
Well, and like I said, there's a couple solutions here. The one solution I see, Bob, is we need another corona type virus that attacks the old people, just gets rid of them all. Because that one, let's face it, corona did not do a very good job of killing all the old people. It killed a fraction.
It did okay. It did better than like nothing.
All right, that's horrible. But that was my one alternate solution, not my end all be all. So maybe that's not the thing. But all kidding aside, the other thing I think about is maybe we start, and here's the reason why I brought it in the first place. You have AOC and Chuck Schumer saying, like, well, what we need to do, because America's not doing it, meaning American people are not producing up because they're being smarter about having kids. Maybe they're waiting till they're financially stable because they're not in their youth. All these weird things that kind of compiled on why we are not having more kids, or we think it's not smart to have more kids because, like, hey, maybe I shouldn't have 2 or 3 kids because I don't know if we can handle that with our current this and that, whatever.
Right.
Those are all very valid answers and valid like things that people should be actually, like, I think they should be doing right now with the current state of things. So what they had said is like, okay, because Americans aren't doing this, we just need to bring more immigrants in because immigrants have more kids. And that's what we need. We need more immigrant kids to pump up the population. And I'm thinking to myself, I was like, okay, I'm fine with that if they're legal immigrants. Now, when you want to advertise and maybe broadcast that you want all immigrants to come in here to have kids, maybe they're not all legal. That's neither here nor there. I'm not going to get into that conversation right now. So different whatever.
Show.
Yeah, different show. But my other thing is, like, why do we do that right away versus maybe we should address why people have so many concerns on why they feel it's not a good plan to have more kids as American citizens. Maybe we should address all of these hardcore monetary stresses that people have, and they've had more of in the past 50 years, that have caused people to say, whoa, 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 pump the brakes. We can't have that many kids because of all of these stressors that apparently have become exponentially stronger against them in the recent decades, right? So I think that's a smarter move. Now, granted, a harder move, much more divisive, much more strategic. And I don't know if we want to tackle all that. You might even have to shake the foundation of the fabric of our modern society to get to it a little bit. So I understand why they're not really scratching that itch that much.
So I have this proposal, right?
Oh, an indecent one?
Not this time, but catch me after the show.
Hey, catch me outside. You know what I'm saying?
So instead of targeting immigrants, right? And I know we're founded on immigrants and all that. And by the way, I did find this overpopulationproject.com website that said our population estimates range from 4 to 16 billion, right? So 16 is the absolute cap for what Earth can maintain, is by their estimates. So anyway, I had to do that.
Yeah, we're about halfway there, a little bit over half. Yeah.
So instead of saying, let's bring all the immigrants in when we know there's a fucking cap on immigrants, or we're going to encourage them illegally, so either way, the message is bad. The message isn't great, now follow me on this. Okay.
I'm with you, baby.
How much does it cost for the elderly population to get old and us not to replace them? And that gap to keep increasing, like fucking the wealthy against the poor gap, right? The economic gap, right? So you got the age gap increasing, right? People keep getting better every year and getting older.
Well, you've got a humanitarian kind of crisis too, because if they get older and we can't support them with our taxes and things like that, then you're being inhumane to old people. You know what I mean? Right. Like, so there's that as well. That you have to so
what is the cost of that? Yeah. Right? Do we just go ahead and say, hey, 22-year-old person, we need you to have 2 kids, and on your second kid, you'll get $100,000 fucking tax credit. Boom. Population has been maintained. Does that make up for the difference in the cost of all these old people on society? I would say it would probably be close. Right. So, and maybe it's not 100,000, maybe it's fucking 63,400, whatever the fuck. Right. But what if you offered up that to start encouraging the younger people? We want you to have kids, because that's what they did in the 50s after World War II. They encouraged people to have sex. They encouraged people to have kids. They fucking gave all kinds of tax incentives. They started pushing population, and the boomers happened. Again, the worst thing that's ever happened to America, but it did happen.
Well, and I was just going to say, they named an entire generation off this movement, right? Like you just mentioned it. Well, I think that's a good plan in theory, Bob, but here's the other issue with theory sometimes that involves money being thrown around. Who's paying for these tax credits ultimately? That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
A penny saved is a penny earned, right? If we don't have to pay for government to take care of the older people, because there's now a younger generation of people to tax and all this, is it more sustainable that route? I know I'm talking like a New Yorker here, but
a lot of hands going on right there. It almost feels like you're a blind man at an orgy. You know what I'm saying? Just feeling around everywhere.
Oh, different kind of orgy. Oh, my bad.
Wrong orgy.
I mean,
everything's fine, Bob. Hey, whatever kind of orgy it may be. But you're right though, and that's something I think that would be interesting to pitch to people, right? Like, hey, here's the projection of cost we're going to be facing unless we pony up right now and take care of this on the front end and be proactive about it. Because again, I would be hesitant as a taxpayer to be like, oh, I'm just going to pay a lot more taxes for people to get tax credits to have more kids. But I don't necessarily see that I need that today, but hence they couldn't even be noticing the extenuating kind of circumstances that are causing more debt with elderly people at the end of the day. And I'm not saying we kill all the old people, obviously.
And Scott, it's difficult, especially in our political climate, to say, hey, here's the projection model for Avenue A. if the age of population keeps increasing, it's going to cost society this, and it's going to drag us down because we have no one to tax to fund that because people are having kids. Because if you did enact a law, someone would gain power in 4 to fucking 8 years, and the law would be changed, and the whole projection model would be fucked again, which has been a real big problem for us for 30 years.
This is true. It is interesting because you know what would happen too. If you come out with that politically, there'd be another specialist on the other side of the aisle that would come up with the study that was completely opposite of that and say, no, he's going to gouge us, dude. This is fucking bullshit. They're using the skin, when you're like, it would be difficult. And I'll tell you this. Here's the other thing. We're pretty much out of time.
I think we were out of time like 10 minutes ago.
We're pretty close. We're pretty close. I think we're right there. But I have a background that has not even been touched on. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow, that's disappointing.
Yeah. Look at this.
Not to say I'm better than you, but let's go handle that. These stiffies can figure it out.
They'll be able to figure it out. And just so everybody knows, we're going to close this bad boy out. But what we will talk about on the next show a little bit more is what's going on in the GOP. What is going on in the GOP? We've got right now a very narrow one reclaimed House and then a retained Senate. But you've also got a nice division between Camp DeSantis and Camp Trump. And I think where you lay your hat as a conservative could make a really, really big difference in the future of the GOP. Would you agree, Bob?
Oh, 100%. And it's almost, I don't even know. I don't know if it's generational or if it's economical, but there's definitely a divide there, and people are starting to draw a line in the sand, and we're starting to see that line more and more every day.
So join us for that one, Stiffies. It's going to be really fun. We're going to dig into that a little bit more next week. But yeah, we are right there. We are about out of time, my friends. And me and Bob have more drinking to do. And Bob has, besides his paper, he still has to check off his quota that he needs to meet for his meat quota, if you know what I'm saying. So, get ready for that bomb in your face. It's like, what is this guy talking about? But thanks, guys, for checking us out and listening to us. Again, continue to support us. We do appreciate everything here. It's a big help to us at the Stiff Truth as we continue to try to just enhance and improve all of our content and our show. Like and subscribe. Check us out on all the podcast platforms, and tune in next week. In addition to what I just mentioned, Bob is going to be diving in a little bit more to how he helped an elderly midget across a very dangerous bridge in the Northern California area. You'll definitely want to hear about that one.
While breaking a sweat.
Not too much, Bob. Not too much. Just dangle that bad boy.
See ya.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy.